session, The Future of Cost Selling is coming into focus with Ryan Ginard. My name is Christine Kim with the Fundraising Academy. And before we get started, I just want to say thank you, Ryan, and thank you everyone and all the participants who are joining in and signing from Texas. Our thoughts are with you. So thank you so much for coming today. A couple of notes before we start. This session will be recorded and you can access the video from your virtual attendee hub. We cannot see you and your microphones are off, but we encourage you to use the Q&A box to the right to ask any questions that you have during the session. We will also have a brief period of Q&A at the end. You'll note that Ryan has also provided a handout that you can find that's located below the session description in the attendee hub for you to download. With all that being said, I'd like to now introduce our speaker today, Ryan Ginard, author of the Future Philanthropy and the Director of Development at the University of Texas, Austin. Thank you, Ryan, for joining us today.
Hey, how's it going? Are we live? Can I thumbs up? Perfect. Okay. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining the session today. I hope you're having a great Power of Engagement Summit. I just really want to thank the team at the Fundraising Academy, Tony Beal, Christine Kim, who just presented me, and Pearl Hoagland, who I believe is still on maternity leave. An amazing team. Definitely get connected with this group moving forward. I also want to thank the leadership of this program, Scott Page, and also Chancellor Cunningham for National University System. Really excited to talk about the futurism and concepts and philanthropy in general and where it's moving towards. I actually had the opportunity to jump on one of the keynote sessions yesterday to get some tips and joined late, and it was just a number of emojis. So there was kind of chickens talking, ghosts talking, and I'm like, pause. I had this dread, like this real dread that came over me that I was going to join this session and it was going to be like the lawyer, you know, with the cat filter. Hopefully we move past that. But I also thought, what happens if someone joins my session late? I speak with a monotone voice. There's very few expressions going in my face when I'm talking. So I can confirm that we are talking about futurism and I am not a robot. But getting on to kind of the topic at hand, again, really excited to talk about this. My name is Ryan Ginard, Director of Development at Texas University at Austin. Obviously, we just came out of the big winter storm, which was kind of harrowing for a number of people, but again, excited to speak to you all today. Also have my book, Future Philanthropy, coming out in the spring of 21. So a couple of months now through Wise Ink Publishing. So let's talk about what we're going to learn today. What are the 3 key learnings you're going to get from this session? You're going to learn what is futurism, or what is it to have a future-focused mindset? How is this going to apply to your work, and how does this intersect with core selling? Obviously, core selling underpins the curriculum of the Fundraising Academy, and I'd be remiss not to kind of weave it into the discussion. So moving forward, make sure my slides are working. 3 key learnings. So what is futurism? I want to make sure that I get this correct, because we talked about the slides that we presented in the download. You'll find there's a lot of typos in there, and obviously that's why you have a good publisher and an editor for your book moving forward. But I want to explain the difference between futurists and what philanthropic futurism is. So futurists are people whose speciality or interest is to attempt to systematically explore predictions and possibilities about the future and how they can emerge from the present. Philanthropic futurism, I believe, is best served by generalists. They're people that know enough to be dangerous in the space. They're a jack of all trades, a jack or Jill of all trades, and a master of some. Make sure you never say a master of none, because that's not true. Generalists are probably the diamond in the rough of all nonprofits and kind of schools out there. I know that we have a lot of educators on this call. So again, it's best served by a generalist approach and an understanding of technology and society that can enable them to see uninhibited its future applications through the lens of the social sector. So it's not kind of going, we're going to have all flying cars. It's like, well, what happens if we had that technology and how would we implement it? We're going to start speaking about the 15 rules of futurism. And one of those is innovation doesn't have to be new, just new to you. So again, how can you apply great stuff that's happening across the globe and bring it back locally and to your organizations, to your schools, and make sure that you're lifting up your results and solutions? So how does futurism apply to your work? Well, very much that, right? Again, catching a glimpse of who's in the room. We have fundraisers, and this is the core, but educators are very much having to take a fundraising mindset moving forward to make sure they have the supplies. And that's why I can see a direct correlation between Harmony, SEL programming, and the academy moving forward. There's a lot of linkage, which is important. Look, this is about strategic planning. This is about thinking about the future. This is about taking that 15 minutes in the hour-long all hands meeting to, basically take away all of the things that are restricting your thought processes. Do we have to pay the electricity bills from 6 months ago? No, let's move on. Let's really just think about what we can do if we didn't have any restrictions in our capacity. And finally, how does futurism intersect with cause selling? I'm sure you all, you can't even see the book. Make sure, now I'm gonna have to just kind of have it there, but I can assure you the book is fantastic, and I would encourage you all to get your hands on a copy. I just want to read two parts of on the back for those that aren't aware of this great text. Philanthropy is about advancing your organization's cause and advancing the goals of the donor. It's all about relationships first and foremost, and it kind of sets up a process to move forward. With cause selling, both are possible. If you truly want to be an agent of change, then you have to change the status quo. That is the most important thing. If you're not pushing against the status quo, you're accepting the status quo. Everything can be better. Even if it's a kind of 1% increase in efficiency, everything can be better. Cause selling will help you focus on what really matters in today's climate. Like, we have issues, but we have systemic issues that aren't going anywhere anytime soon. We probably work for homeless kind of service providers. We probably, education's always going to be there, but how do we kind of make it more efficient? Like, no one predicted COVID, but we had a lot of kind of tech solutions put on us. And we had to deal with it swiftly. But again, if we can kind of start predicting those, talking about what the future is, and if it's kind of accelerated, then we're ready for it. We're not kind of being reactionary. I think a lot of stuff that COVID has shown and kind of exposed the nonprofit sector is that we weren't prepared. And anything moving forward, it's again predicting and mitigating and just making sure we're ready to respond. So again, I mentioned the 15 rules of philanthropic futurism. This is something that I have by the side of my desk. It really underpins, it's the scaffolding of my thought process, as it were. So I'm going to go through them in no great detail. The book really goes into detail about them and how they can be applied. But the first is always the most controversial, because, what's a good book without kind of whipping up some controversy? Understand that government can only change systems. I'm in philanthropy. I've raised millions of dollars. I've kind of been part of organizations that have granted out millions of dollars, but they can't tackle systems change in a way that laws can. So you can advocate, you can start lobbying kind of elected officials. They make the change, but we can also, again, influence the people that go to Congress. So if you want to shift trillion-dollar kind of economies and budgets, then government is where it's at. So that's going to change your mindset when you approach that. So that's why it's always a precursor. Again, we talked about innovation doesn't have to be new, just new to you. Free, the robots aren't going to take your jobs. The reality is here that a lot of the tech that's coming through is mainly of an automated nature. It's going to take away all of those mundane tasks that take an hour a day, and it's going to just move them forward like clockwork. One thing I want to reiterate here is that you don't backfill that time gained with more mundane tasks. You use that time to really think big picture, to think bigger solutions, and to kind of, be a bit more risk tolerant. And that's something the book really does encourage folks to apply themselves to. 4, stay the course. Change takes time. It's generational change that we're looking at to repair civil discourse, right? I've always seen Harmony, the part of the suite of programs here, as the key program nationwide at the moment that is looking to rebuild civil discourse and kind of relationships at a very early age. We're only going to see the kind of ripple effect of that in the coming years when they kind of become adults and they start making decisions, start kind of interacting in civic life. So be patient, and with that, just understand that progress is happening every day. Sometimes you need to think not outside the box, but from a totally different box altogether. We nonprofits, we have that deficit mindset. We're like, yeah, let's have that session where we think outside the box. Like, what does that even mean? Like, sometimes there is funding mechanisms out there that you can that are readily available, but you're just not aware of them yet. So when I say like talking from a totally different box altogether, start looking at what's out there. What government grants are there? Are you willing to take a loan? Are you willing to get one of your donors to guarantee that loan to get what you need to do to have the impact you know that you can have? So that's that one. 6, what does that even mean? We talk about all of these big issues. I mean, nonprofit sector, we lead with our heart, right? So we try and oversell stuff. And I think you'll get that from my presentation. I just talk too much and too quick. But can you explain what you're trying to do to a 5th grader? You know the show, Are You Smarter Than the 5th Grader? There's a reason they use that kind of that level. It's like you need to be able to explain that in layman's terms, which is not the word you'd use for a 5th grader, but you need to be able to articulate your mission, your case statement in ways that is easily understandable and people can link arms to. Don't be everything to everyone. This is important. I think that we try and impress everyone, but the reality is you win with 50 plus 1. Be beholden to your values and lead with conviction. Make sure you're doing everything you believe is right and make no apologies for it. Reclaim the word philanthropy. Philanthropy is like a kind of swear word for some people. Like some philanthropic institutions don't want to even use the word. Like they're trying to dismantle it and create something a bit more digestible. But the reality is, this is what defines our work. We should reclaim it and understand that everyone is a philanthropist. You give $5 to your brother who is doing Movember, that's an act of philanthropy. You kind of participate in a 5K run, that's an act of philanthropy. Let's start being proud of the work we do, and let's not kind of make it sound flash by using the Greek terminology of it, because if I ever see that on another blog, I'm going to run a mile. Convene, cultivate, and connect. Philanthropy and non-profits, the social sector has an amazing power to convene not only business, academia, government, but they can do it because they're seen as a neutral party to civic solutions. Cultivate, again, once you've convened and you've kind of got that North Star, start making sure people are doing that work, start kind of being that change agent from within. And connect. There's lots of opportunities out there. Just be a bit selfless and start making sure that we can lift other people up and up to the tables where their voice is going to be very powerful. I think we've excluded too many people for far too long, and it's a blight on kind of the country's history, as it were. So wherever there's opportunity, let's not go, okay, it's our turn, because the reality is I don't need another rubber chicken dinner. If there's a seat at a gala table that I can give up where I know there's going to be key influences that might actually foster or catalyze a big transformative grant for that organization, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that person's sitting there, not me. Don't just shove your logo on it. Philanthropy, anyone that's kind of giving a lot of funds to projects, you never see them until the end when you have to give that lengthy report. But they want those sound bites ready for the media release at the end, and they want their logo all over it. So it's a part of participatory leadership, right? Know when to lead, when to link arms, and when to get the hell out of the way, frankly. So that's on. I'll quickly speed up these 5. We're not all in the same boat. This is really a question of equity. We talk about being in the same boat, but the reality is we're in the same storm. Landfall really is that kind of social justice, equality haven, as it were. But saying we're in the same boat is kind of insulting to a lot of groups out there that are doing it tough. Some are sadly kind of zooming ahead on super yachts, and some have just got, no, we need to lift everyone up and we need to start working together. Credentials so you don't crater. Keep learning. There's, even if you can't do a master's because you don't have the time, you have 2 kids, there is a lot of other professional credentials out there, like even doing a course at the Fundraising Academy. That is to make sure you're learning, and you're learning cutting edge techniques in the fundraising world, and you're equipped to be successful moving forward. I mean, again, I always talk about linkage. There's everyone, well, not everyone, a lot of people on this call right now have been educators of SEL. Like National University have a Master of Arts in Social Emotional Learning. This is the linkage. Like, this is an emerging concept in the classroom. Take that master's and you're going to accelerate your career accordingly. So keep learning, and remember, it doesn't have to be a master's or a doctorate. It can be something that simply is lifting up your knowledge base. Rounding out the 15 of my 3 favorites, ask. What's the number one reason donors don't give? It's because you don't ask. So keep on asking. I actually automate free asks the night before. I do all the emails, because if I'm not asking people to connect, to talk about our mission, then there is no pipeline, there is no funds coming in. So you can be very smart about it, but keep on asking. You don't ask, you don't get. 14, give. This is really about like you're talking about giving and you don't give. I think there's a big disconnect there, and I think that's a values disconnect. And you really need to start giving up more of your time, because again, if you're part of a community, a functioning community, you need to be in the places where the people you serve are. And 15, I don't even think I can say the words, so you can just read it, but let's stop procrastinating. We all know we can do amazing things together, but sometimes we just fall short by not moving it forward. Progress every day. So now it's going into like the 3 main pillars of my book. It's again, the talent, tech, and trends of philanthropy moving forward. The big thing here, these are kind of stuff that I've identified and researched as big problems for the sector. So I'm only going to kind of scoot over these quickly and get into depth on like maybe 1 or 2, and we can have questions at the end. But a big thing is our leadership pipelines are leaking a generation of talent. Fundraisers are only spending a max of 16 months on average in their roles before they either move laterally, move up, or move to a totally different sector. I'm really starting to see that there's a kind of a professional cliff face. So all emerging leaders are getting sent to all of these courses, like learn about the community, learn about kind of more skills. And then when it gets to 30, that all drops off. They're stuck in middle management. They're waiting for that next big leap in the organization. But the reality is it never comes. It's always kind of close enough to touch, but not enough to hold. And we're starting to see people leave for the corporate sector because they're having families. They've got to put food on the table. They're getting mortgages. Life is happening, and once they move out of the space, they're not coming back, even though they say with the best intentions that I'll be back and I can't wait to make a difference, and just this is a different phase of my life. They don't, because at the end of the day, when you've got kids, it's very hard to say to your significant other, sorry, I can't make my daughter's recital tonight because I've got to go knock on doors for a ballot measure. Like, you need to stay engaged, and you need to again, this is mainly for leadership. You really need to understand that your development staff are really important. I think we just saw a research report come out from LinkedIn saying that 74% of all staff are sheltering in job right now. So what that means is that they're waiting for the fog of COVID to lift, and they're going to leave. So you need to sit down with them now and give them kind of real substance to how they can progress in your organization, or you're going to lose them. So that's a big deal. Non-profit Moneyball, we all know the Moneyball principle. It's baseball terminology. There was a movie on it. Small teams playing with data to identify the best talent to win. Non-profit Moneyball is the same concept. It's identifying the skills, the transferable skills. You might find they're kind of political operatives, picking people that do fundraising there, and bring them into your scope, and realizing that philanthropy is great because you're not always fighting for votes. You're fighting for change and immediate solutions. Salary cloaking is a blight on the non-profit sector. If you've got a job, please put the salary ranges. Make sure you're attracting the right talent and you're paying them what they're worth, and not having a conversation with them, getting them super interested, and then deciding to opt out or opt in because they feel they don't have that option of turning it down. So that's a big thing. I've written extensively on that, and a part of the book is a lot of emerging leaders that are working in this space, because it has a compounding effect. If someone is due to take a step up to a director at say 100K, but they settle for a 75K job, over time they're going to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost wages, 401k matches, and also they're not going to have the title that's going to keep on elevating them. And you know what, this is really profound for people of color. They seem to be the kind of worst recipients of this tactic. So let's start having honest conversations. And again, if someone doesn't apply for it, it's not through want of trying. Are we heading for a new virtual reality for nonprofits? Again, this is a COVID thing. We always thought we had to be in place. We always thought that no, we have to be in the office. It's the only way we're going to deliver our services. We're going to move to a hybrid, but the reality is rent was, after staff costs, was probably the biggest expense for nonprofits. Do you need a big kind of facility with a boardroom that's used once a month for your biggest donors? No. Really, you can downsize and still be effective. You can move totally virtually and be effective. You can hire someone from the other side of the country and they can still do a stellar job. Let's start kind of thinking outside the box there and realizing that we are moving into a new hybrid era of service delivery. And fundraisers as knowledge brokers. This is really important. I work for the computer science department. I'm raising money for quantum computing, which I'm not going to take any questions on at the end, so don't ask me to explain it. Machine learning, computational health, disaster analytics. I know enough, again, to be dangerous to kind of move along the conversation. What you're doing is you're trying to connect your goals with people that might not have that same level of technicality. And again, you're the bridge to the gift. So again, knowledge broking is going to become really important moving forward. Then we move on to the trends side here. Are flawed metrics and grant making, I can't even see it's cut out. Hang on, I had my screen across. But basically what this means is it's non-profit overhead, it's trust-based philanthropy. I think we all know the trends there. But it's also using data to understand when say you've taken a risk on a organization that's only been around for a year, and they're led by a team of color, and you have reservations because they don't have that long history. You take a risk and you say give $50,000 to them, but you're not seeing the returns kind of after a year. Then is not the time to pull away that funding or pull away your partnership. Then is the time to look at the data and go, did we give enough? Did we do enough? Did we connect them to key people that could have advanced this project moving forward? So again, the traditional ways of grant making is going to change. It's going to unravel. Everything is literally in the next 5 years, I think you're going to see tech really change this over. Renaissance of regional associations of grant makers, anchor institutions like community foundations, they're charitable banks. They always will be. It's their core work. And what you're going to see is regional associations coming and do a lot of the equity work and bringing impact investing, a lot of those kind of new terms. Non-profit mergers, self-explanatory. It doesn't happen because of personalities mainly, but it's an important thing to think about. Could combining your assets and your skills really lift up the work? ROI, I've really been pushing the return on immersion as the new ROI. I'll give one really quick example here. Pencils of Promise. They had their Wall Street Gala. I mean, Wall Street Gala kind of, loads it already, but they made a 16-foot replica of a Ghanaian classroom. They put a VR headset on every desk, and they got the donors to sit down and watch a 90-second video, which took them to that classroom. They raised $1.9 million that day. So you're going to start seeing mixed reality, virtual reality really become the empathy driving machines of the future, and which is going to benefit the sector. This is the fun stuff. This is where you probably have the questions. I still have all of the questions. So I'll quickly go through because I'm starting to get the time knocked there. Before we can start onboarding all this big tech, we really need to get all of the kind of gender biases, the racial biases, and that are really starting to get built into the framework of our algorithms. Like, it's really scary that we're building all of this fantastic new tech, but the government regulations and rules are kind of coming as a reactionary measure to it. So that's a really important thing to note moving forward. Smart contracts. I think smart contracts and automated grant making are going to start taking the funder away from the process. You're not going to see site visits. You're not going to see like 60 pages. What you're going to see is it basically go through a set of rules, see if you kind of have an acceptable answer for that, move you on, and then kind of grant the money accordingly. You'll get access to the money straight away, and if you have multi-year grants, it's going to disperse them, and it's all going to be built on smart contracts. Really exciting stuff there. Chatbots and virtual assistants, like, it's cool stuff. I actually raised a six-figure gift 2 weeks ago via text, because we never sent text messages as a major gift vehicle. And what happened is, it texted me. I quickly went onto our database and saw that there had been regular giving every month, to the point that could fulfill a 5-year pledge for 6 figures. And what you could basically do in the future is set up rules for Alexa to just go, which will be kind of connected to like a Razor's Edge or whatever, and it will you can basically go, what is the capacity of such and such, and it will give you information in real time, so you can make informed decisions while you're speaking with the donor at that point. And also, what if machines could show us our approaches to solving society's biggest issues were wrong? This is the biggest thing, because machine learning and the algorithms that are part of that process, we sit on troves of data, right? So basically, in the future, it's going to be able to run all of these data sets and identify the patterns and come back to you with potential solutions, or stuff that is identified with high degrees of certainty, of which you're going to be able to make better informed decisions. I think it's going to help us identify people that are on the verge of homelessness. I think it's going to help us with approaches to tackling poverty. It's really exciting stuff. Reimagining institutions. This is something that I would encourage you folks to do. Like, I mean, look at our most monolithic of structures in terms of government, in terms of just what's happening in the nonprofit sector. USPS, for example, like, they nearly went under because of COVID, but imagine if they became a new pillar of banking. Imagine if they could be a fiscal sponsorship, a fiscal sponsor for new nonprofits. Exciting stuff. I mean, uber kind of wealthy folks that want to build a private foundation, they don't have to do that anymore. Like, the exciting thing is non-profit private universities like National University, they had $185 million gift come in that fueled all of this SEL, and it's reached over 12 million students in 20 countries. It's in the 10 biggest education school districts in the country. I mean, basically 30% of all US students, so that's 3.4 million full-time equivalent students, go through one of the 1,600 or so nonprofit universities. Like, philanthropy can really help, contribute to the nation's educational attainment. So again, credential don't creator, but also it's economic mobility. So think outside the box and, again, push back against the status quo. The three key take-homes that I want to say before we wrap up is: think big, be bold, and have conviction in your values and ideas. Go get it. like futurism should inspire change without being weighed down by the restrictions we have had or currently face in our work. It's exciting times ahead, and you know, you should all really want to lean into it. And I don't know if we have any time for questions.
We do have time for one question that I think you probably have been asked a lot, Ryan, since you've written your book. But the big question is, what was your inspiration or trigger to write this book?
It's change. I've always been kind of building little tech things like kind of apps. And what really inspired me was sitting during, this book wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for COVID, sitting there with my family going, you know, what is this? What does this mean for my future? What does it mean for my children's future? And being at UT, just being inspired every day by, you know, people that are 100 times smarter than me. And that was the key thing. It was understanding the technology that exists, and again, being able to apply it in ways that can benefit the nonprofit sector, you know, benefit the organizations that we all work for. While I work at UT, I've worked for really small nonprofits. I've you know, being a community organizer, I've ran the gamut. I'm definitely kind of the personification of the generalist, but all that I've learned, I want to share that in a way that is constructive and can lift up our work and lift up the sector. Because one thing that really just irks me is the nonprofit deficit kind of just, you know, it's just a stain on the sector that the for-profit world can, you know, a fancy new iPhone can be really popular, and they can then make it cheaper at scale. Whereas if a non-profit's successful, they have to raise more money, get in more folks. It's really painful. So let's start treating non-profits very much kind of take away that stigma around a 501c3, because at the end of the day, it's just a tax designation. It's not a business model.
That's great. Thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us today. And thank you everyone who has attended. Again, a reminder that please download the handout that Ryan has provided. It's underneath the description of this session. There's contact information, and everything that Ryan has covered is also included in that handout. So I do recommend that you download that. And again, thank you all for joining us today, and please take a quick break before your next session. But remember that you can find this recording on your attendee hub. And at the end of the day, you will receive a survey, so please fill that out to give your honest feedback. Thank you everyone again, and please enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.